Jonathan, it's back at Bramall Lane this weekend to face Lewes. What are you expecting from the game?
It'll be a tough game, obviously. I think every game at this level is extremely tough, and every team has their style of play and the way that they want to play. I think it will be quite cagey, be quite sort of compact with the way that Lewes play as well. But that being said, I think hopefully we can come and make it quite expansive, and we'll look to implement what we've been working on in training on Sunday.
Yeah, it was a 2-2 draw when Blades faced Lewes early in the season, obviously before you were here, but have you looked at that? Have you taken much away from it at all?
No, so I normally just go through the last 3 or 4 games from the opposition, and from our point of view, obviously, because we are looking to implement just a different style of play, we've tried to sort of focus on the games we've played so far this season, where we can improve and what we've not done as well as we could have. Obviously, it's great that the previous game was a draw, but we want to make sure we try and turn that into a victory this week, and hopefully with what we have planned and how we want to play this Sunday, we should be able to do that.
You mentioned the last 3 or 4 games. I mean, from Sheffield United perspectives, there have been good performances, taken 4 points from the last 3 away games, but probably deserved a bit more than that. Yeah. How keen are you to now sort of take maybe the away form back into the home games, because they've definitely been the better performances so far?
Yeah, definitely. I think both Palace away and obviously Sunderland away, I think, in all honesty, should have been 6 points with the way we played in those games. I think we were by far the better team in both games, created by far the better chances, and I think we're just lacking that little bit of composure in the final third that can hopefully put some of these teams to bed earlier on in the game, rather than leaving it to be a contest, which naturally builds anxiety into the girls as the game goes on. We want to obviously take that performance now into Bramall Lane on Sunday. We want the girls to feel that type of confidence they had elsewhere and show that to the fans and give the fans something to cheer about. And I think anyone who's watched those games will see that it's coming, but hopefully this Sunday in our penultimate game at home we can show it.
It's been really encouraging, you say, like it's just been that lack of cutting edge, but seeing the amount of chances created and being on the front foot, is it something that you're now working on maybe in training, just to make sure that at the final moment we're making the right decision and being really as clinical as possible?
Definitely. I was really clear to the girls when I came in. I said, we first nail the out of possession, and we know how we want to play, how we want to set up, and how we want to nullify teams. And I think they've really taken to that very well with the style that I've implemented. And last week actually was probably the first week we actually started to focus on the in-possession side of the game, and not just rely on winning the ball high up the pitch in terms of building up play ourselves at a little bit more speed, a bit more tempo, highlight what part of the pitches we want to exploit. And I think that's now developed again this week in training, so we're hoping to see the last 2 weeks start to come together, and we want to make sure we connect that with our out of possession, and if we do that, we'll be very, very competitive on Sunday. The girls just have to cross over that white line and do it.
Have you been pleased with how quickly they've adapted to your style of play? Because it's been a drastic change in a short space of time, but it looks like it's really coming across.
Yeah, definitely. Made them a lot more aggressive out of possession. I think, obviously, with the difference of different regimes within this league, it was important that we close down space rather than allow teams to come onto us and win the ball higher up the pitch. I think the girls have really taken to it. I feel like they've sort of felt like they've been released a little bit from that point of view. Sort of the shackles are off, not to just contain, but to let's go and create. And I think that's been the reason why they've sort of brought into it so quickly, is because it's allowed them to show the outside world some of their more creative talents rather than just their defensive discipline.
And it is a very attacking group, actually. Even sort of some of the defenders and midfielders are actually, they're very keen to get up the pitch. As an attacking coach yourself, is that nice to work with?
Yeah, definitely. I think I do try to remind them that we still need some defensive structure as we're attacking, and I think that's where we fell foul for. Obviously, maybe the first week or the first couple of weeks, and we've definitely seen an improvement in that. But from my philosophy, my mindset, where I do like to be on the front foot, I think it's brilliant that I've got so many girls that have that mindset themselves and actually want to improve that side of their game. So all we can do is just keep working at it, keep focused, and like I said, for us, it's a long-term project. It's not just about staying in this league. We will stay in this league. That's the plan. But then, how do we then go and tackle the league next season as well?
And this weekend in particular, it's women's football weekend. Now, there's no men's games because of the international breaks. There's a chance to put a bit more of a spotlight on the women's game. In your time working in women's football so far, from when you first started out, what improvements have you seen just sort of generally?
I think just the support in general, isn't it? It's the support behind the scenes. It's not necessarily the things you see in front of you. It's the being able to go in and around the clubs and talk to different departments and have that respect from those departments instantly, rather than having to build that respect. It's people's opinions of the game have obviously gone up tenfold, and that makes a massive difference. I think if we're going back to, like, let's say 10 years ago, a decade ago, like I've always said, sometimes I was training in a car park because there was literally not enough money in the club to provide us a pitch to train on. And we're now obviously training it here at Sheffield United. We're training at the training ground. Like, I get to talk to like Hecky quite a lot. I get to talk to the academy staff quite a lot. Constantly changing ideas within the club, and I think that's the biggest development for me, is all those unseen bits, which then has such a big impact on the pitch.
And then in terms of, like, sort of, I suppose, wider exposure and getting the message out and trying to get people down to Bramall Lane, do you think this is a good chance for people who maybe wouldn't usually have come and watched the team to get down?
Yeah, I think obviously, like I said, there's no game in the men's this weekend, so for all the fans out there that want to get a bit of a football fix, it's a great opportunity to come to Bramall Lane and enjoy a different type of spectacle, which is the women's game, and hopefully hopefully we can do what the men's did last week in the FA Cup and provide a great victory for them.
And then just finally, how important is that support? Because, whether it's 500, 1,000 people, or we had 11,000 earlier in the season, that giving the players that extra 5-10%, can they really make a difference?
100%. I was actually quite pleasantly surprised at the atmosphere when we played Crystal Palace, and I think from that point of view, like, the fans were loud, they were noisy, you could hear them, the girls could hear them, and it did keep the girls going through that game, even when there was a few difficult patches. So having them in there is fantastic, and like I say, the more of them, the better.